So today we're going to be talking about Aubrey Drake Graham, who I think it's safe to say everyone knows universally as Drake.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's not just, one of the world's best-selling artists, which he is. We're talking over 170 million units sold worldwide.
A staggering number.
It really is. But he's also this strategic economic force, a cultural phenomenon that I think really demands a deeper analysis.
Yeah.
We've got an absolute mountain of sources laid out in front of us, articles, financial reports, all these legal filings, deep-cut interviews.
Right.
So we want to be clear. We're not here today to just, review his discography. We are opening up the hood of the machine itself.
That's exactly the right way to put it. Our mission today is a true deep dive into this vast, calculated empire that Drake has built.
Right.
We're going to be dissecting the artistic contradictions that really define his unique sound, and then tracing the strategic business dominance that's detailed in all this material.
So the central question is...
The central puzzle we're trying to solve is how this Canadian actor, transformed himself into the highest certified digital singles artist in the U.S., and you could argue the single most dominant global cultural force of the last decade.
And to set the stage for that, let's just look at the pure financial weight he carries. I saw this number and it stopped me cold.
The Toronto number.
Yeah. The sources reported that Drake was responsible for a reported 5% of Toronto's annual tourism income back in 2018.
And 5% sounds, kind of abstract, but what's the actual dollar amount?
It's CAD $440 million.
Yeah.
Out of a staggering CAD $8.8 billion total.
Wow.
I mean, that's not the influence of a celebrity. That's the impact of a major multinational corporation.
And that statistic is so crucial because it immediately tells you his career is operating on a level that it transcends music consumption alone.
It's way beyond just selling albums.
Way beyond. We are looking at an anchor of local and even global economies. So to understand that growth, we have to look at the intersection of his music, the finance behind it, the legal drama, public perception.
The whole package.
The whole thing. We're going to trace that strategic blueprint from his early days as, Jimmy Brooks on Degrassi, right up to him achieving 14 Billboard 200 #1 albums.
Which is a joint record among male soloists.
A joint record, exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this. I think we have to start at the very beginning.
We have to, before the private jet, before the mansions, before this whole champagne pappy persona, he was just Aubrey Drake Graham.
Born October 24th, 1986 in Toronto.
And what immediately jumps out from all the source material is the fundamental complexity of his heritage, his dual heritage, which I think really fuels a lot of the emotional and cultural versatility we see in his music.
Yeah, that dual citizenship is fascinating. He gets his U.S. citizenship through his father, Dennis Graham, who was an African-American professional drummer from Memphis.
And not just any drummer. He actually toured and performed with the rock and roll icon Jerry Lee Lewis.
Right. And then on the other side, his Canadian heritage comes from his mother, Sandy Graham. She's a Canadian Ashkenazi Jew who worked as an English teacher and a florist.
That is such a powerful blending of backgrounds. It just sets up this complex, multi-layered identity right from day one.
And that identity was forged in a context of instability, both financial and familial.
Yeah, his parents divorced when he was only 5. He and his mother stayed in Toronto, but his father returned to Memphis.
And was later incarcerated for drug-related charges, which limited his finances and, it caused him to stay in the U.S. until Drake was in his early adulthood.
And this really complicated relationship, this absent but artistically important father figure, it became a core lyrical theme for him.
Yeah, though it's important to mention that the sources do note his father, Dennis Graham, later claimed Drake's whole narrative about him being an absent father was embellished.
He said it was specifically to sell music.
Exactly. A claim which Drake has, vehemently denied.
So that contradiction is just baked into his story from the very start, and where they lived adds another layer to that.
Initially, they lived on Weston Road, which is a working-class neighborhood, until he was in grade 6. He was even, immersed enough in Canadian youth culture to play minor hockey with the Weston Red Wings.
But then they moved to the affluent Forest Hill area in 2000.
But, and this is the key distinction, that move to Forest Hill wasn't a sign of sudden wealth.
Not at all.
Well,
Drake later clarified that financial juxtaposition. He said they had the bottom half of a house we could live in.
The other people had the top half. We had the bottom half. I lived in the basement. My mom lived on the first floor. It was not big. It was not luxurious. It was what we could afford.
And that speaks to a theme he would mine again and again. Having the perspective of this wealthy environment, but without the access or the capital. He was perpetually on the outside looking in.
He also attended a Jewish day school, became a bar mitzvah. So he's balancing this religious and academic environment with the intense pressure of a burgeoning professional life.
And that pressure is why he ended up leaving high school, both Forest Hill Collegiate Institute and Vaughan Road Academy. His class schedule just conflicted with his acting career.
Though, to his credit, he did return to earn his high school diploma at age 25 in 2012.
And that professional life, that acting career, it began really early. At age 15, he landed the role that literally put food on the table.
His debut is Jimmy Brooks, the basketball star, who's paralyzed after being shot by a classmate on Degrassi, The Next Generation.
Which ran from 2001 to 2008.
And the sources really emphasize this was not some glamorous pursuit. This was about financial necessity. We have a direct quote from him.
What's that?
He said, "My mother was very sick. We were very poor, like broke. The only money I had coming in was from Canadian TV."
And that level of early financial responsibility, it directly fed his hustle into music. The showrunners, Linda Schuyler and Stephen Stone, shared this incredible anecdote.
Oh, about him sleeping on set.
Yeah. He was recording music all night and would often show up late. He had to strike an actual agreement with the set security guards to let him sneak in after recording.
And just sleep in a dressing room.
Just so he could be ready for his call time the next morning. It's such a powerful image of that duality, you know? The rising teen star sleeping in a dressing room because he couldn't afford an apartment close to the studio.
That dual pursuit is what led to his first music project, the self-released mixtape, Room for Improvement, in 2006.
And what's interesting is it actually featured established artists like Trey Songz and Lupe Fiasco, which shows he was already making some serious connections.
He was, but the commercial return was tiny.
Yeah, he described the project itself as pretty straightforward, radio-friendly, but he admitted there wasn't much substance to it lyrically.
It sold roughly 6,000 copies and earned him a grand total of $304.04 in royalties.
Can you imagine? After pouring your heart into a project, you get a check for $300.
It's deflating. But he immediately corrected course with his next mixtape, Comeback Season, in 2007.
This is the moment. This is when he founded his October's very own label, OVO, and dropped the single Replacement Girl, featuring Trey Songz.
And this is the critical juncture.
Absolutely. Replacement Girl included a sample of a Lil Wayne verse from Man of the Year.
And Wayne noticed.
Wayne noticed. He recognized the talent and invited Drake to Houston to join the Ty Carter III tour. And during that tour, they started recording together, making tracks like Ransom and Forever.
It was this organic mentorship that it bypassed all the traditional gatekeepers.
And that mentorship just exploded with the breakthrough mixtape, So Far Gone, in 2009. This was a masterclass in how to exploit that pre-streaming digital landscape.
Pure, controlled, viral marketing.
Totally. He made it available for free download, but only through his OVO blog, and it got over 2,000 downloads in just the first 2 hours.
And that grassroots enthusiasm quickly translated into commercial success. Singles like Best I Ever Had
peaked at #2 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Right. And Successful achieved platinum status. The mixtape later won Rap Recording of the Year at the 2010 Juno Awards.
And that success generated what the sources called one of the biggest bidding wars ever.
An industry frenzy.
It really was. And he ended up securing a recording contract with Young Money Entertainment in June 2009, which put him directly under Lil Wayne.
But even this breakthrough moment came with a physical setback.
Yeah, while performing Best I Ever Had in Camden, New Jersey that same summer, he fell on stage and tore the ACL in his right knee.
The irony is just staggering. The financial success was instantaneous, but the physical cost and the pressure were just immense.
It's almost the first sign of the resilience of the machine, you know. Despite a major injury at the height of his breakthrough, the momentum didn't stop.
It just translated directly into his official debut.
Exactly. The injury couldn't slow that commercial engine. His official debut album, Thank Me Later, dropped in 2010, and it was an immediate, verifiable blockbuster.
It debuted right at the top of the Billboard 200, selling over 447,000 copies in its first week.
And that figure wasn't just impressive. It made it the top-selling debut album for any artist in 2010.
And it secured the record for the highest sales week for any debut album throughout the entire 2010s decade. It was just a clear statement that the hype was justified.
But the sound we really recognize as the definitive Drake blueprint, the one that would define the next decade of mainstream R&B and hip-hop, that was solidified with his second album.
Take Care, in 2011.
Yes. And this was a conscious, strategic, sonic pivot led by his producer, Noah 40 Shabib.
This is where we need to get into the weeds a little bit.
Yep.
That album wasn't just a commercial success. It set a whole mood.
It did. Drake specifically wanted a more cohesive, languid, atmospheric sound. He wanted to move away from the traditional hip-hop structure of Thank Me Later.
And what's fascinating here is how the production created that atmosphere.
They intentionally moved toward a low-tempo, sensuous, and often dark sonic aesthetic. It was built on these sparse, almost underwater-sounding drums, heavy reverb, moody synthesizers.
It leaned so heavily into R&B and pop structures, but without losing that lyrical density of hip-hop.
It felt intimate and grandiose at the same time. And that deliberate blending earned him the Grammy Award for Best Rap Album at the 55th ceremony. The industry clearly recognized this genre boundary-pushing effort.
And the cultural resonance was immediate. The single, the motto.
Oh, yeah.
It's famously credited in our sources for popularizing the acronym YOLO, You Only Live Once, in the United States.
And when an artist introduces a concept that becomes a mainstream internet and cultural mantra, it shows he's tapping into a collective consciousness that's far beyond just music trends.
That ability to capture and spread culture brings us to his core artistry. His signature is what's called the rap-song dichotomy.
Critics primarily classify his sound as pop rap, which is this calculated blend of hip-hop and R&B. A style that later brought in trap, especially around Nothing, was the same in 2013, and even dancehall and UK drill rhythms.
But it's the technical delivery that makes it so distinct.
Right. He combines traditional rapping with singing, and he often switches seamlessly between the two within a single verse.
He's credited his father for introducing that idea of incorporating singing into his early mixtapes.
And Lil Wayne supported and encouraged it, pushing him to incorporate melody into his really technically complex lyrics.
The result is this compelling contrast. You get this abrasive, sharp rapping, and then it's coupled with these softer, often melancholic, melodic accents.
And his sound is so heavily influenced by his upbringing in multicultural Toronto, right? His connection to Caribbean and Middle Eastern communities is why you hear patois phrases like ding or touching road sprinkled into his bars. It grounds his global appeal in a very specific, localized culture.
Lyrically, he carved out this revolutionary niche with what critics have called hyper-reality rap. So what does it actually mean for you, the listener?
It means he shifted the focus away from traditional street or real-world narratives that were so common in hip-hop. Drake's world is focused almost entirely on themes of celebrity.
Right. Wealth, complex relationships within that fame, self-reflection on money.
And occasional drug use, all filtered through the unique lens of his own star power. He's rapping about the experience of being Drake, which resonates with listeners' aspirations and, their voyeuristic tendencies.
And you can trace those influences so clearly. He cites the technical wordplay of hip-hop figures like Kanye West, Jay-Z, MF Doom, Lil Wayne.
But he balances all of that with the emotionality of R&B artists like Aaliyah and Usher.
And significantly, the sources emphasize the influence of dancehall artists, particularly VB's Cartel, who he called one of his biggest inspirations.
So by the time Nothing Was the Same dropped in 2013, we saw this stylistic maturation. It moved away from the more ambient, despondent sound of Take Care.
And sold 658,000 copies in its first week, eventually clearing 1.7 million in the U.S.
But the real strategic move came 2 years later.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The business strategy behind the music. The unannounced surprise release of If You're Reading This, It's Too Late in February 2015.
It instantly sparked this furious industry debate. Was this a legitimate album, or was it just a mixtape?
And the sources strongly suggest it was a calculated scheme.
Oh, absolutely. By releasing a retail project with Cash Money Records, he was reportedly fulfilling his contractual obligations faster.
All to enable his eventual departure and gain more control over his masters.
It was a legal maneuver disguised as an artistic release.
Which demonstrates an unprecedented level of control. I mean, he essentially weaponized his own popularity against his label contract.
And despite the lack of promotion and that whole format debate, it was a gigantic commercial success. It sold over 1 million units in 2015. The ability to drop a high-quality, million-selling project with zero notice was a massive power shift in the music industry release cycle.
So by 2015, the machine was operating at full commercial capacity. The next few years were just defined by absolute chart domination.
And he kicked off this peak era with the collaborative mixtape, What a Time to Be Alive with Future.
That project was such a display of rapid-fire talent. It was recorded in less than a week in Atlanta.
And the debut made him the first hip-hop artist since 2004 to have two projects reach #1 on the Billboard 200 in the same year. It was certified 2X multi-platinum.
That momentum led directly into what I think is the defining project of the mid-2010s, Feuds in 2016.
This is where he fully cemented his status as a genre-agnostic global pop star.
Feuds wasn't just successful, it was completely dominant. It held the top spot on the Billboard 200 for a staggering 13 non-consecutive weeks.
It achieved sextuple platinum status in the U.S. But the core story is consumption. It generated over 500 million streams in its first week.
Think about what that number means. To translate that data to a human scale, that's like every single person in the United States streaming the album at least 1.5 times in the first 7 days.
And this album gave us One Dance, the single that just solidified his global reach.
It became his first #1 single as a lead artist simultaneously in Canada, the US, and the UK.
And it secured the title of the best-selling single of 2016 in the UK.
He continued to challenge industry definitions in 2017 with More Life, which he branded a playlist of original music.
Which wasn't an artistic whim. This was a further evolution of his streaming-first strategy.
And that strategy paid off instantly. More Life set a massive new streaming high.
Yeah.
It logged 89.9 million streams on Apple Music in just 24 hours.
And 61.3 million on Spotify. At this point, Drake was already deep into record-setting territory. He had been continuously present on the Hot 100 chart for 8 consecutive years.
And his streaming supremacy just climaxed with Scorpion in 2018. It was his longest project, clocking in just under 90 minutes.
And the consumption data for that one just speaks to his unparalleled reach.
Scorpion broke the one-day global streaming records on both major platforms.
132.45 million plays on Spotify and a colossal 170 million plays on Apple Music. The sheer volume of consumption was just overwhelming.
And led to 3 massive singles that year.
3 cultural moments. God's Plan, which is now Diamond certified.
And then there was that famous chart mechanic moment. Nice for what?
Right. That song debuted at #1, immediately replacing his own God's Plan at the top spot.
Which made him the first artist in history to debut a new #1 single right after their previous #1 debut.
And then the success of In My Feelings that summer made him the rapper with the most #1 hits.
Then, in 2021, came the Scary Hours 2 EP, which was this 3-song tease before his full album.
And that EP achieved one of the most stunning chart milestones we've ever seen.
All 3 songs, What's Next, Wants and Needs, and Lemon Pepper Freestyle, they debuted in the top 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 simultaneously.
He became the first artist in chart history to achieve that level of instantaneous saturation.
And that overwhelming momentum just continued right into the next album, Certified Lover Boy, in 2021.
Debuted at #1 and immediately set another record. It became the first album to chart 9 songs simultaneously in the top 10 on the Hot 100.
With Way Too Sexy becoming his 9th #1 single.
So when you zoom out and look at the cumulative picture, you realize these aren't just one-off hits. This is a systemic redefinition of the metrics of music success in the digital age.
Exactly. We can outgroup these records thematically to really understand his decade-long dominance.
First, there's the sheer volume. He's ranked as the single highest certified digital singles artist in the U.S. with 142 million units.
And he was officially named the Billboard Artist of the Decade for the 2010s.
Which isn't just a trophy. It reflects total cumulative success across every major chart for 10 continuous years.
Then there's the persistence. His chart totals include the most charting songs ever, an astronomical 359.
The most top 10 hits, with 81. And the most consecutive weeks on the chart, 431 weeks.
So for nearly 8.5 straight years, a Drake song has been on the Hot 100. It's just relentless.
And this leads us to the ultimate historical comparison. In 2022, Drake broke the Beatles' 55-year-old record for most songs to reach the top 5 on the Hot 100 chart.
30 songs. That's just staggering. When you start comparing an artist to the Beatles, you're not talking about contemporary rap anymore.
No, you're talking about historical popular music consumption.
Beyond that benchmark, he also holds Hot 100 records for the most top 40 singles, which is 217.
And he's the only artist to have 2 separate albums log 400 weeks each on the Billboard 200. His consumption metrics are so immense they become abstract. He has simply changed what success looks like in the streaming era.
And that massive volume of hits we just detailed, the chart records, the perpetual streaming, that's only the output.
Right. It's fueled by an equally aggressive and astute set of business decisions.
So we need to shift from Drake the artist to Drake the business architect. And the center of that operation is the OVO ecosystem.
OVO Sound. It was co-founded in late 2012 with his producer Noah Forty Shabib and his business partner Oliver El-Khatib. This was a classic strategy. Gain leverage.
It gave him an immediate avenue to release his own music with creative control.
While simultaneously nurturing artists like Party Next Door, Majid Jordan, and DVSN, who were all aligned with his distinct aesthetic, it operates with distribution through Warner Bros. Records.
And the OVO moniker is so deeply embedded in the fashion world, which is a major part of his brand visibility.
He established these lucrative partnerships with Nike and Air Jordan, which led to the notoriously coveted Air Jordan OVOs.
But that fashion approach goes deeper than just endorsements.
It does. He created his own dedicated Nike sublabel called Nocta.
Specifically named after his nocturnal creative process.
Yeah, and Nike described Nocta as focusing on minimal-inspired, fashion-forward sportswear. This isn't just selling branded t-shirts, it's achieving the kind of creative partnership usually reserved for elite athletes like Michael Jordan himself.
He's positioning himself as an athletic force in culture.
Exactly. And speaking of athletic forces, he planted an undeniable flag in his hometown through the Toronto Raptors.
He was named the team's global ambassador in 2013 and joined their executive committee. This is a strategic cultural investment.
He helped promote the 2016 NBA All-Star Game. He consulted on rebranding the team's image, and he secured the naming rights to their practice facility,
which is now the OVO Athletic Center.
And this all culminated in him receiving the key to the city in 2016, a complete integration of his personal brand into Toronto's civic identity.
He also helped usher in the streaming era as we know it, becoming the figurehead for Apple Music in 2015.
That was a reported $19 million exclusivity deal.
And that deal was absolutely pivotal for the industry. His solo releases became available first on Apple Music, which gave the platform a massive competitive edge at a crucial moment.
He also developed the OVO Sound radio station on Beats One, which was the primary debut platform for new music. I mean, the debut of More Life oversaw over 300 million unique users.
The sources credit his deal with Apple's initial sharp success, effectively launching that whole trend of high-profile exclusivity deals across the industry.
And then the empire extended into Hollywood with Dream Crew Productions,
which he co-founded in 2017 with Adele Future Nur. So why did a chart-dominant rapper need an Emmy-nominated production house?
It's all about creative control and diversification beyond music royalties. Dream Crew operates in both management and entertainment production.
So by serving as an executive producer on major series like HBO's Euphoria,
for which he got an Emmy nomination,
and Netflix's Top Boy, he gets a seat at the table in these diverse creative industries.
And they also produced critically important documentaries like The Carter Effect and Black Ice, which charted the experiences of Black and ethnic minority ice hockey players. It allows him to shape cultural narratives on multiple fronts, not just through songs.
And looking at his investment portfolio, the diversity is just stunning.
Robo-advisor Wealthsimple, cannabis provider Bull Rider,
a minority stake in the esports firm 100 Thieves, and a rumored stake in the Italian soccer club AC Milan, which was acquired as part of a group for a staggering $1.2 billion.
An industry analysis noted that his investments are typical of musicians with these immense personal brands. They're examples of momentum investing.
Meaning he leverages his personal celebrity to generate cash flow, which in turn generates more publicity for the startup than the money itself.
Exactly. And this leads us to the high-visibility partnership with Stake.com, the online crypto gambling platform,
reportedly netting him $100 million per year.
And this deal created the famous Drake effect, where his public endorsement and high-stakes wagers led to a massive increase in the company's awareness.
He publicly reported betting over $1 billion in virtual currency between December 2021 and February 2022.
But this partnership raised significant ethical red flags that are highlighted in the sources. Critics pointed out that he was heavily promoting games like roulette, which have a negative expected value, to his vast, often young audience.
It's a huge dilemma, isn't it? Leveraging his immense platform for commercial gain versus the potential negative social impact, especially when the lines are so blurred between what's a personal wager and what's a sponsored promotion.
Absolutely. And we'll get deeper into the lawsuits around that blurring later. But he also stepped into the culinary world.
Right. He co-founded Virginia Black Bourbon Whiskey,
which, despite the celebrity backing, was ranked by one major review as the worst value celebrity liquor for quality versus price in 2021.
Ouch.
Yeah. He also collaborated on Mod Selection Champagne and notably purchased a minority stake in Dave's Hot Chicken.
And he even hosted a major free chicken giveaway in Toronto for his 36th birthday. He turns consumption and commerce into these community events.
And on the pure cultural front, he's just a walking meme economy, the term the Six for Toronto.
That's all him, popularized in 2015.
And who could possibly forget the Hotline Bling video?
Oh, impossible.
The video was strategically simple, focusing on his eccentric, often awkward dance moves, and it went viral specifically because of the parodies and memes it generated. His team understood that in the modern era, virality is currency.
His public persona is defined by these moments, but also by things like the Drake curse.
Right, the internet meme noting that teams or people he publicly supports often lose unexpectedly. It turns his emotional connection to sports into a piece of digital folklore.
So for an artist who has cultivated this carefully managed, almost emotionally sensitive brand, the frequency and the sheer intensity of his feuds are they're a necessary part of the narrative.
They're massive media drivers. The tension between the sensitive crooner and the ruthless competitor is part of the draw.
And that tension is constant. Let's start with the long-running rivalry with Kanye West.
Drake recounted specific interactions that are detailed in the sources. He alleged that West first gave him the instrumental for Lift Yourself, and then actively sought information on Drake's upcoming releases, suggesting they replicate the legendary producer-artist relationship of Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson.
But the relationship soured dramatically, and it was rooted in what he saw as a massive personal betrayal.
Drake played West the song March 14th, which publicly addressed Drake's new relationship with his newborn son.
And then shortly after, the news of his son was exposed to the world by Pusha T.
So Drake concluded that West had deliberately revealed the secret information. This led to years of denouncing West in music and in live performances.
And the fallout was so public and messy. Pusha T used the information to diss Drake on The Story of Adidon, which publicly revealed Drake's fatherhood in 2018 using the phrase, "Adonis is your son."
And even though West and Drake attempted a public reconciliation with their 2021 benefit concert, the sources show the rivalry just flared up again when Drake later leaked West's unreleased song Life of the Party in 2021.
The cycles of peace and war are just relentless.
But all of that was overshadowed by the 2024 Kendrick Lamar feud,
Which defined the year in hip-hop.
It began when Lamar dropped that bombshell verse on the Future and Metro Boomin track Like That in March, taking direct aim at both Drake and J. Cole.
And the exchange that followed was historical. A generational clash played out in real time.
Drake swiftly responded with push-ups and the AI-generated track Tailor-Made Freestyle.
Lamar countered with the scathing Euphoria and 6.16 in LA.
Then Drake escalated the personal nature of the fight with Family Matters, notably accusing Lamar of domestic abuse and attempting to cast doubt on the paternity of one of Lamar's children.
And Lamar's immediate replies were just utterly brutal. They focused entirely on attacking Drake's character and his business empire.
Meet the Grahams accused Drake of sex crimes and fathering a secret child. This was followed by the commercially successful Not Like Us, which leveled accusations of pedophilia and anti-Black sentiment.
And it is absolutely necessary to reiterate here, based on all our source material, that the claims of pedophilia and sex crimes leveled by Lamar are unsubstantiated allegations made during a highly public and aggressive rap battle.
Right. And Drake responded with The Heart Part 6, denying all of Lamar's accusations and claiming he had fed Lamar false information about the secret child as a test, thereby suggesting Lamar was easily manipulated.
But the general public perception, according to the sources, largely declared Kendrick Lamar the winner of the battle based on the cultural impact and reception of tracks like Not Like Us.
Now let's look at the critical legal battles. His successful defense in the 2014 Pound Cake lawsuit set a key legal precedent in the music business.
Drake was sued for $300,000 for sampling the 1982 single Jimmy Smith Rap.
And he won in 2017 when a federal judge ruled that the content he used was transformative and therefore not copyright infringement.
Which is a massive win for all contemporary artists. It validates the use of samples to create entirely new, non-derivative works, which is so crucial for modern production.
That precedent is a game changer for producers. But even with that win, the financial realities of sampling still bite.
He had to pay a $100,000 settlement to Rappin' Forte over misuse of his lyrics in Who Do You Love? So why the difference if he won the pound cake case?
The difference really lies in the nature of the use. The pound cake case was about taking an old recording and transforming it into something new.
The Rappin' Forte settlement concerned the direct misuse of lyrics.
Exactly. Intellectual property theft of written content, which is less defensible under fair use. The system is still complex. And separately, we should note a 2017 assault lawsuit from producer Detail was dismissed, and he settled a multi-claimant lawsuit about an alleged nightclub assault in 2018 out of court.
More recently, the Vogue lawsuit was highly visible and really speaks to the aggressive marketing tactics of his team.
Condé Nast sued Drake and 21 Savage in 2022 for using the Vogue name without permission to promote her loss using fake magazine covers.
They just leveraged one of the most powerful fashion brands in the world without consent.
And the legal response was swift. It led to a settlement where Drake and Savage voluntarily ceased using the trademarks. It just underscores the aggressive edge of the Drake machine, often pushing the legal boundaries of marketing and intellectual property.
And this brings us to the biggest paradox of his career. Despite having this historic commercial power, Drake himself is actively challenging the integrity of the very system that crowned him.
Which leads to the massive UMG Spotify lawsuit.
This started in late 2024, when Drake filed a petition, which quickly became a full lawsuit in January 2025 against Universal Music Group and Spotify.
He alleged they conspired to artificially inflate the stream count of Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, using a combination of targeted pay-to-play schemes and malicious bots.
This is so critical. He is accusing his own industry partners of manipulating data to boost a song that was explicitly aimed at dismantling his career.
And the most interesting part of the sources, by far, is the court's response.
Absolutely. Judge Jeanette Vargas ordered discovery to continue in April 2025.
Which granted Drake access to highly protected internal financial data. We're talking contracts between UMG and Lamar, as well as detailed salaries and incentive plans for senior record label staff going back 5 years.
The court's willingness to allow access to such sensitive financial details indicates they took the claim of algorithmic manipulation and potentially unfair competitive practices very, very seriously.
It fundamentally suggests that the court acknowledged that in the streaming world, the mechanics of chart success might be managed, not purely organic.
Right, and although the defamation part of the suit against UMG was later dismissed in October 2025 because the court found the statements to be non-actionable opinion, the discovery element is the lasting legacy of that case.
And the legal turbulence continued into late 2025 with the twin lawsuits filed in Missouri and New Mexico regarding his Stake.com endorsement deal.
These lawsuits allege that Drake and Aiden Ross illegally misled viewers by presenting stake-funded bets, so company money, as personal wagers during highly visible live streams.
So the central ethical critique of his gambling promotion, that he was misleading his audience about the risk and the source of the capital, is now being tested in court, which is a key piece of the business narrative.
Despite the high-stakes views and this constant legal turbulence, the musical output continues, and the sonic strategy remains fluid. In 2022, he dropped Honestly, Nevermind.
That album was a significant stylistic pivot. It was an extensive exploration of house music.
And the BBC suggested that this embrace of a genre with profound origins in Black and queer spaces would help build a bridge between these origin subcultures and younger mainstream music listeners.
It just shows his continuous strategic ability to absorb sounds and make them commercially palatable to a massive global audience.
And his influence is now so pervasive that critics note it's essentially impossible to hear certain contemporary male R&B singers without hearing Drake's stylistic mark.
Many subsequent male R&B singers are adopting his signature half-hearted vocal performances, that almost conversational, off-the-cuff emotional delivery to create a sense of raw, natural emotion. He's just an inescapable touchpoint in the genre now.
And that influence is no longer just cultural. It's being formally recognized and canonized in academia.
Starting in 2022, Toronto Metropolitan University began teaching courses titled Deconstructing Drake and the Weeknd.
Think about that. Professors are using his music as primary texts to explore these vital, complex themes. Race, class dynamics in Toronto, global marketing strategies, globalization itself.
That's not just a course, that's the formal institutional recognition that his career is a case study in modern cultural economics and identity.
He continued his relentless output into 2022 with 21 Savage on Her Loss, which debuted atop the Billboard 200, extending his record for most top 10 entries to an astonishing 67.
The machine just keeps churning out results.
And 2023 saw the release of his 8th studio album, For All the Dogs.
The lead single, First-Person Shooter, featuring J. Cole, topped the chart, and that tied Drake with Michael Jackson for the most solo #1 songs by a solo male artist. He is systematically checking off the legends one by one.
The pace is not slowed down, even after the high-stress Lamar feud. Early 2025 brought the collaborative album, Some Sexy Songs for You, with Party Next Door.
And that album was immediately dominant, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200. Crucially, that debut tied the all-time Billboard record with Jay-Z and Taylor Swift for the most #1 albums by a solo artist.
He has solidified his position alongside the absolute biggest commercial forces in music history.
And he's immediately pivoting back to solo material. His highly anticipated 9th studio album, Iceman, was announced and heralded by the lead single What Did I Miss in July 2025.
Signaling his definitive return to full-length solo material after a series of collaborative and playlist projects.
And looking ahead, his civic ties to Toronto remain a strategic cornerstone. He was announced as Toronto's host and musical performer for the 2026 FIFA World Cup matches,
Which is a massive global platform, further integrating his brand with Canada's international image.
And globally, his commercial draw remains unparalleled. He became the fastest artist to sell out the 2025 Wireless Festival, selling all the tickets in minutes. The empire just continues its deliberate, calculated expansion.
So after all this, what have we learned about this vast empire?
Well, in summary, Drake's career is defined not just by talent, but by unprecedented commercial success driven by a highly calculated strategy.
Right.
And that strategy blends emotional vulnerability, which is delivered through his signature rap song style, with ruthless business diversification across OVO, Dream Crew, and countless investments. His chart dominance, marked by records like most streamed artists of the 2010s, is historically undeniable.
That commercial saturation is absolute. I mean, remember that number. In 2021, 1 out of every 131 streams in the US was a Drake song.
It's incredible.
Yet, as we detailed, the ultimate paradox is this. While he's busy setting historic chart records, the ultimate metric of industry success, he is simultaneously engaging in a massive lawsuit alleging the artificial inflation of a rival's diss track by the industry itself.
It speaks to a profound conflict at the heart of modern pop stardom. We're seeing ultimate success achieved through personal branding, emotional content, and undeniable musical appeal.
But it's all underpinned by this complex, sometimes seemingly fragile corporate apparatus.
Where even the biggest star feels compelled to challenge the rules of data integrity in court.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, for us as consumers of culture? When an artist can achieve historic chart records, yet simultaneously file a massive lawsuit alleging the artificial inflation of a diss track's streams by the industry itself.
And the courts grant him access to internal contracts.
Does that suggest that the business of pop stardom today is less about organic popularity or musical quality and entirely about achieving and maintaining absolute control over the flow and perception of massive amounts of data?
It's a compelling thought to mull over as we watch the Iceman navigate the next era.